In this video, I'm going to be laying out for you the essential tools for a successful kickoff meeting. Hi, I'm Latina, your project manager with Kinsman Point Consulting. My role is that I help project managers build healthy relationships with their projects and their teams, and I also help businesses get their projects finished. As a project manager, you will be responsible for leading the kickoff meeting. The kickoff meeting basically is that first meeting that you have with your project and your team right after you've been given the go-ahead or the green light to start the project. Now, this is where all the groundwork is laid, right? In my last video, I talked about a project having a relationship status. Well, this point in the project is where the relationship kicks off. You're meeting everyone for the first time. You may know the people who are on your project or your team. You may know a little bit about the client, but that kickoff meeting sets the tone for what's going to be happening in the project. So I'm going to give you some essential tools to make sure that your kickoff meeting is successful. Okay, and I'm going to be working off of a few notes because I don't want to miss anything. So the first thing that you want to do is do your homework. Before you even get to the kickoff meeting, you want to spend a little bit of time doing a little bit of research, okay? Check out their website. Whatever business that you're working with, you want to check out their website, see what they're all about. What are the industry trends with this particular client in the business that they're in? Where are they located? Do they have multiple locations? Read the contract. What's in scope? And while you're reading the contract and doing all that research, write out some questions, some initial questions you have based on what you're finding out. That's going to be essential in how you move forward in your kickoff. Also, you want to see if there are any hard assumptions or hard deadlines that must be met without question. Also, who are your key stakeholders? Who are the individuals that you'll be meeting first? And who are some of the additional stakeholders that may not be a part of that first meeting, but will be a part of this project, and what are their roles? And then finally, you want to develop a high-level timeline based on the scope of the project. Now, this might be something that was already established at the time that the project was approved, but whether it has or hasn't, you still want to look at what that high-level timeline is going to look like, because you're going to want to communicate that during the kickoff. Now, we haven't reached the kickoff yet. The other thing that you want to do is you want to have an internal kickoff with your project team, the group that's going to be doing the work. So you want to share your research with the project team. What have you learned? Review the main points of the contract, so to ensure that each person knows what's in scope for what they're going to be doing. All right. You also want to review that high-level timeline. And agree to it. Make sure that this is a team effort, right? So you're going to be reviewing that timeline. If there's anything that's been missed, you can put that in at that point. Travel arrangements. Now, in your research, you will have probably figured out, or probably have a clear understanding of whether or not there's going to be travel involved, or if this is going to be a remote event. If it's travel, then you want to discuss the travel arrangements. What are the travel guidelines? Where are you going to be staying, flying in and out of? How are you going to handle that the logistics of all of that? And then you want to discuss expectations for the kickoff and agree on a kickoff agenda. This will include agreeing on the length of the kickoff itself, how many hours, whether it's you may have a kickoff meeting that's maybe a couple of hours, but depending on the scope of the project and the complexity of the work, this might be a longer kickoff. Maybe it's several hours, maybe it's a day and a half, and you lay out that agenda and you agree on it internally with your project team. Now, we're still not at the kickoff. One other thing you need to do, you want to send the client the information before the meeting. One of the things you want to send them is that agenda that you agreed upon internally. Send them the agenda so they know what's going to be happening, know what's going to be going on. And another thing you can do too, particularly when this is the first meeting, right? We're in a relationship, right? We want to make sure they know who we are. They get a feel for who we are as a team. You may want to send them a slide deck, one or two slides, depending on how large the team is, that includes a picture of everyone on your team, what their role is, and just a brief synopsis of who they are. Now, a part of that too, you can make it a little interesting and have each person on the team provide some fun fact about themselves. This is kind of a precursor to an icebreaker that's going to happen at the kickoff. So maybe that fun fact could be the thing they like to do when they were a kid, or their favorite toy they played with as a child. Just some fun fact. What that does is you're establishing a relationship, and a lot of times things like that help other people who you've just met make a connection to you. It's like, oh, I know her because she likes to roller skate, or she liked to roller skate when she was younger. So if they see that as a part of the agenda and they see the picture, then that establishes that relationship early on. Now, once you've sent all that off, once you've given that information, it's time for your kickoff. You've got it scheduled, it's on the books, and you're at the meeting. So first things first, introductions. So with the introductions, what you can do there is that they've already met you per se, right? So you want them to introduce themselves, and you can have them do the same thing that you did in writing: their name, their role on the project, and a fun fact, that favorite toy that they liked when they were a kid, or that favorite activity they liked to do when they were a child. So that establishes that bond or that relationship. They may even bring up some information that they read about someone on the team that they identify with. So again, we're starting off with a really quick rapid fire icebreaker and getting the ball rolling and getting people to talking it right up front. Now, review what's in scope. You're at the meeting. So review what's in scope so that everyone is on the same page. The client is on the same page. If while you're reviewing that, you find that there are some discrepancies, some things that they thought were in scope that are not, take a note of that, and then you can always go back around and review that. But you definitely want to talk about what's in scope. Review the timeline, including any milestones or any of those hard deadlines that have to be completed. Talk through that in your kickoff. Now, a couple things you want to do next. You want to establish a meeting cadence. What meetings are going to happen when, and what's going to happen during those meetings? Are you going to be recording those meetings? Who's going to be the scribe or the note taker at those meetings? All of those things. So depending on the complexity of the project, you're going to have a lot of different meetings for different purposes. So you want to establish that as much as possible up front at your kickoff. You also want to establish a communication cadence. What I mean by that is how long before, what's the status or the protocol for responding to email? You may say that all emails should be responded to within 24 hours or 48 hours. If it's an emergency, you would mark it as such, and then that will be responded within a 4-hour time frame. You can set up a communication cadence like that. Another type of communication cadence is, where will your documents be shared and stored? Documents are a form of communication, okay? Whether it's collecting of data, meeting notes, things of that nature, where will that information be stored? So that you're going to talk about that as well. And then also part of the meeting, you want to establish clear next steps. As you get to the end of that meeting and you've talked about all of these pieces, what are the next steps? This is the kickoff, right? You're just starting out. So you want to get everything laid out. What are the actions that each person or persons are going to be taking, and when are those going to be delivered? Now, those are the basics, right? Some other things to consider that you could make a part of this kickoff, or maybe it's an ancillary meeting that you establish later on. A risk exercise. Now, as a project manager, you are responsible for identifying risks and attempting to mitigate those risks when they are identified. So you want to go through some sort of risk exercise, whether it's during the kickoff, maybe you plan for that as a part of the agenda, or you do it at a different time. But you definitely want to start thinking about what risks you need to consider. For example, if this is an outside project, maybe it's a construction project, you may think about the location that you're in and the weather over the course of the project. That is a potential risk. How are you going to work around that? How are you going to mitigate that? So things like that. So you want to do a risk exercise either within the kickoff or in a later meeting. Another thing is stakeholder identification. Now, the people who you see at that kickoff may be the same people that you see throughout the project, or not. Some of those people may, depending on the type or complexity of the project, may only be on for a certain period of time. And then there might be different people coming onto the project because there's a different set of deadlines and needs. So stakeholder identification is going to be important to do as early as possible, because the stakeholders are who drive your project and can also change your project if they are not identified early on. Finally, another suggestion is surveys. Now, here's what I mean by that. You may want to employ a survey maybe prior to your kickoff, let's say, that asks some simple questions, maybe one to three questions. Maybe what are your expectations for this project, or what are you looking forward to in this project? And the reason why I say that is because it gives you an idea of what the team or what the client is thinking about. Now, again, this can be employed at any time. You may send this out maybe ahead of time along with your agenda and your introductions. Maybe you send out a link that says, hey, we would love for you to fill out this survey and send it back to us by this time. And then that'll give you some information to review. Or you could do it in real time. You can, if it's one or two questions, you can provide the link in your kickoff meeting and say, hey, take about 5 minutes, answer these questions, and then after we come back from break, let's discuss. So again, another way to develop a connection, you're developing a relationship, right, with your project team and your client, and this is a great way to do it. All right, so I hope this was helpful. Please, if there's any part of what I've mentioned that you would like more detail on, please let me know in the comments. Also, as a project manager, let me know about some things you've included in your kickoff meeting that I may not have mentioned. Also, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel and turn on those notifications so you can be notified of future videos that I put out. All right, thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.